Association has partnered with the Tarrant Regional Water District to encourage water conservation. TRWD maintains 4 area lakes and pipelines needed to provide surface water to local water treatment plants so they can clean that water and meet drinking standards for our communities. They also work with many cities in Tarrant County, such as Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, and many others to provide water conservation programs to the community. Conservation is an important water supply strategy to help meet the needs of our growing population. There are currently 2.3 million people living in Tarrant County, and this is expected to double over the next 50 years. At SaveTarrantWater.com, you can sign up for free weekly watering advice custom to your location. If you're a resident of Tarrant County, you can sign up for a free sprinkler's checkup where a licensed irrigator comes to your home, provides a comprehensive evaluation.
Today, we are going to talk about vegetable gardening in North Texas. This is not meant to be an in-depth presentation on all of the technicalities of growing vegetables, but instead, it's meant to be an informative and inspirational overview and to answer questions like, what do I plant? When should I plant it? And how much should I plant? The first question you should ask yourself is, what do vegetable plants need to thrive? The first thing they need is good soil. Good soil is a whole other class all on its own. But in a nutshell, good soil means a nice, loose, loamy soil with plenty of compost and micronutrients. I would highly suggest that you get your soil tested before planting to find out if your soil is lacking or even has an excess of any nutrients before planting. You can call the Tarrant County Master Gardener hotline at 817-884-1943 or 817-884-1944 and ask them to send you a soil sample kit. A good 6 to 8 hours of sun is recommended. In the hottest part of the summer, a little shade from the west in the afternoon can give your plant a little needed reprieve from the heat. And last but not least is water and oxygen. I include these together because when you water the soil, the water displaces the oxygen. And if you water too much, you can force the oxygen out of the soil and drown your plants. So water enough, but don't overwater. So now that we know what plants need to thrive, the next question is, what should I plant? The answer is, what will you eat? Here are 2 wheelbarrows of sweet potatoes that were grown at the community garden that I'm a member of. I hate sweet potatoes. I never grow them. They have a long growing season and they take up a lot of space that I can use for other plants that I truly enjoy. So grow what you and your family will love to eat and leave the rest to the commercial growers. You might be thinking that you know what you want to plant, but you always get it wrong when it comes to knowing when to plant it. In order to decide when to plant, ask yourself these 3 questions. What growing zone region am I in? When is my area's first and last frost? And is my crop a warm or a cool season crop? What region or hardiness zone are you in? And why is it important to know? Well, knowing your zone is the key to choosing plants that are most likely to thrive in your particular area. The hardiness zone tells you the expected minimum temperatures in your area. The zones are more important for perennial plants, but they are also helpful for some annuals that we would grow in the winter. No zoning system is perfect, and even within your own garden, you may have important microclimates that impact how plants grow. Use the zones as a guide. This is the hardiness zone map that Texas A&M has produced for us. They show that Texas has 5 growing zones or regions. In Dallas-Fort Worth, we are in Texas A&M's Zone 3. This chart shows the average minimum temperature for each zone. Our average minimum temperatures, according to this chart, are somewhere around 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It also correlates the Texas A&M Zone 3 to the USDA Hardiness Zone 8. The USDA Plant Hardiness Map is created and updated every few years by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It divides North America into 11 zones by minimum average annual temperatures. The lower the number is, the lower the temperatures in that zone. Each zone represents 10 degrees of temperature difference. Each zone is also divided into A and B segments. These represent 5 degrees of temperature difference. For example, Zone 8A, which is where we are, represents minimum temperatures between 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Most plants have a minimum temperature that they can withstand. Almost all of our warm season annuals cannot abide a frost, and even some will meet their demise when the temperatures dip into the low 40s. Many of our fall and winter crops can withstand light freezes and may actually taste better after going through a freeze. But even these crops will meet their demise if the weather gets too cold for them. Many plants are heat sensitive. Those that do well in the cool weather of fall, winter, and early spring will weaken in the heat and be overcome by pests and disease. In order to know when it is safe to plant, you need to know when your average last and first frost dates are. According to the National Weather Service, the average date of our first freeze is November 22nd, and the average date of the last freeze is March 12th. In these charts, you can see the actual earliest and latest first and last freezes ever recorded. The earliest ever recorded first freeze was on October 22nd, 1898. The earliest in contemporary times was October 31st, 2019. If you are one of those who never plant your veggies until after Easter, then you might want to take a look at this chart. The latest last freeze ever recorded was on April 13th. If Easter is after this date, I would think twice about waiting for Easter to plant. Again, use these dates as a guide. Here is another resource to use for finding your average first and last frost. This is from the Farmer's Almanac. You can put your zip code in and get your altitude, last spring frost, first fall frost, and how long your growing season is. The dates are different than the National Weather Service uses, but again, these are all guides to use at your own discretion. How do you know if your crop is a warm or a cold season crop? The easiest way to know is to use a planting guide. There are many planting guides out there on the internet. Some are easier to use than others. I will discuss 3 for our area: Texas A&M's guides, North Haven Gardens guides, and Arbor Gates guide. Here are the URLs for Texas A&M's spring and fall planting guides. Here is a screenshot of Texas A&M's Fall Direct Seeding Guide. It correlates with their zone map that we discussed earlier. Since we are in Zone 3, we can see that we should plant snap beans on September 1st. But it doesn't give us a window of time, just one date. It doesn't tell us if we should start them indoors or plant directly outdoors, or when the best time to plant them is. This is not my favorite planting guide. Here are the URLs for the guides from North Haven Gardens in Dallas and the Arbor Gate in Tomball. Here is a screenshot of the North Haven Gardens guide. As you can see, they show us when to plant indoors, outdoors, and what period of time to do so. For example, at any time in January, you would plant onion sets and slips and leeks outdoors, and broccoli, cauliflower, kale, etc. indoors. From March 15th to April 20th, you would plant bush, lima, and pole beans outdoors. Here is a screenshot of the Arbor Gates guide. They have guides for zones 8A to 9B. I love this guide. because you can see the whole year at a glance for any vegetable type. The symbol key shows an empty box for planting inside, a solid box for planting outside, and an empty diamond for the best times to plant. The columns include the crop, family group, which is helpful for crop rotation. You don't want to plant the same family in the same place every year if you can help it. What to plant, seed, transplant, root, etc. And then the months are divided into the first and last half of the month. This is my favorite planting guide. I have used it successfully for the last 4 or 5 years or so. So what can I grow right now, or in the fall, or winter, or spring? This is a quick guide of things that you can grow and when is the best time to plant them. What I'm going to show you isn't everything that you can grow, but it's a good representation of the most popular veggies you can grow throughout the year. Most people will say that North Texas has 2 growing seasons, spring and fall. But my take is that we really have 4 growing seasons, and this is how I categorize them. Early spring, early summer, summer, late summer, early winter, and late winter, early spring. I mark the early spring, early summer season as being the time starting after the average last frost and to about mid to late June. And here are some of the most popular things to plant at this time of year. Zucchini, although it can be attacked by not 1, but 2 different pests that make it difficult or impossible for many to grow in our area. Beans. They like warm days and cooler evenings, so they do great in the early spring and fall, but not so great in the summer. Tomatoes, they will slow or stop producing when the daytime temperatures reach a consistent 90 degrees and overnight temps stay above 70 degrees. So you might want to get them in as soon as you possibly can. Eggplant, hot and sweet peppers. These 3 also stop or slow production in our hot summer temperatures. Corn, it can be difficult due to pest pressure, and you need to plant it in large groups for good pollination. Melons will grow well from spring through to the first freeze. Strawberries are really best planted in the fall here, but they're really hard to find in nurseries and mail order catalogs at that time. So we generally plant them in spring unless we can find a friend who has some runners that they'll share with you in the fall. Cucumbers love the warm days and cool nights of spring and fall, but not the heat of summer. Sweet potatoes. You won't plant your slips until 3 to 4 weeks after the last spring frost, once the nighttime temperatures have reached at least 55 degrees Fahrenheit. The trick is to plant them early enough for them to mature properly, but not so early they get killed by a late spring frost. They will grow all spring through summer until the first frost. Herbs can be planted as soon as the last frost and will grow well all summer and fall. Winter squash, despite what you may have heard, is not grown in the winter, but can be planted from spring to summer. It's called winter squash because it stores for long periods of time, all the way into winter. Sunflowers are also great to plant at this time. Summer. Our summer is a northerner's winter. Just like they stay inside in the winter and stay warm and toasty while reading their seed catalogs, we do the same in the summer here, only with the air conditioner on. I consider our gardening summer to be July and August, but even with our harsh summers, there are still some things that we can grow that can take the heat. Wix lima bean. It is heat tolerant, pest resistant, and highly productive all summer until the first freeze. This is a 10-foot row of beans that produced 16 pounds of dry beans over the season. I never liked lima beans, but I received this as a free giveaway and decided to plant it. The beans are really good. They're not dry like the old-timey lima beans that your mom bought in the freezer section of the supermarket. It also makes a great summer screen in the backyard. Field peas, some people call them cowpeas, are great to plant after pulling potatoes or onions. Black-eyed peas, purple hull peas, cream peas, etc. These black peas are a field pea called Holstein because of its black and white coloring. Sweet potatoes and herbs will still be going strong. Winter squash and okra are champs in the heat. Late summer to early winter. I consider this period of time to be from mid-August to early January. Late summer, early winter is the optimal time to grow the following veggies because at this time of year, there is very little pest pressure. Also, many of the same plants that you grew in the late spring, early summer can be replanted now. Lettuces of all kinds do well in the cool weather. Leaf lettuce is better than head lettuce. Cabbages and spinach. This spinach survived the snowmageddon we had in the spring of 2021. Dill and celery in pots. Collards, cabbage and kale. Cucumbers, chard, and cabbage. Potatoes that you saved from your spring plot can be replanted in mid-August for a fall harvest. They won't be as productive as your spring crop, but it's nice to have them in the fall, and you can keep some for seed potatoes for the spring. Garlic is planted in mid-October, as are onion seeds. Onion seeds can be started indoors or outdoors, wherever you have space for them. Carrots, greens of all kinds, and strawberries show up again. English peas, snow peas, and sugar snap peas love this time of year. Beautiful beets, so easy and fast to grow. Radishes also do well in the cooler weather. Turnips, cilantro, leeks. More cabbage. This one is a Chinese cabbage. Purple mini broccoli, so easy and beautiful in the garden. Pink cauliflower. Carrots come in all colors. Rutabaga. Lemons, broccoli, and cauliflower. If you have ever tried to grow cauliflower and failed at it, it's probably because you tried the white cauliflower. Try the orange or the pink or the green ones, and you will be so happy. They're so much easier to grow than the white ones. They have more nutrition, and they're just beautiful. Late winter, early spring. I consider this to be from mid-January to around the middle of April. January and February is the time that you would start your tomato, pepper, and eggplant seeds indoors. Plant the cold hardy vegetables again at this time. But I want you to note that it's too late to plant garlic or onion seeds at this time, but you can plant onion slips now if you weren't able to grow them from seed in the fall. This is the best time to plant onion slips, potatoes, and asparagus. Now that you know when to plant and what to plant, you might be asking, how much should I plant? Well, it all depends on the amount of space you have and the number of people that you are growing for. You might not have enough space to grow enough food to last a year for your entire family, but if you do, here's a handy chart that you can find on page 10 of the Texas Home Vegetable Gardening Guide at the Texas A&M website. This handy chart tells you the name of the vegetable, the number of days to first harvest after planting, how long you should expect to be harvesting, the yield per 100 feet, and the approximate planting per person for fresh eating or preserving. These resources will help you to get started now that you know what and when to plant. They will guide you through choosing varieties and how to plant the vegetables. And remember, you can always call the Tarrant County Master Gardeners hotline at 817-884-1943 or 817-884-1944.
Teresa Day-Fickel, if you'll go ahead and unmute, and anyone that has live questions, go ahead and unmute and ask those of Teresa if you haven't already.
Hi, I was wondering, where would you get seeds here? Because I feel like I buy seeds at the store and I'm not getting enough. Like, they're not coming out. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong.
Right. So you're buying them locally, like at Lowe's or Home Depot?
Correct. Or, you know, like Tractor Supply.
Right.
I'm not getting stuff
Right.
from it.
Generally speaking, the seeds that those companies sell are their major name brand seeds, and you should be successful with those. So it could be your practice. But let me tell you where I buy my seeds. My favorite place to buy seeds is at Johnny's Selected Seeds, because I seem to get really good germination, and so that's my number one place. I do also buy at Baker Creek. I save my own seeds. I buy from the same places that you just said that you bought from. So I think maybe have you taken any classes in propagation?
I have not.
Okay. So I know that the Tarrant County Master Gardeners do some classes on seed propagation. I think there's one coming up. Nancy, am I correct? Isn't there going to be a seed class online?
We actually just had that last week.
Okay.
But we can give them an email address that they could email us, and we could send them the unlisted YouTube link.
Okay. And then and that class will basically show you how to start seeds. And maybe there's something that you'll learn from there that you are not doing.
Thank you.
Hello, I do have a question. This is Mai. I'd like to know if, do you have some information about container gardening and how we can utilize, grow these vegetables in containers? I live in a condo area, so I do not have the luxury of a yard.
Right.
So wondering if container gardening, or rather growing vegetables and fruit in containers, and if you have a session on that. Thank you.
So I grow almost all my vegetables in my backyard in containers. Let me show you right now. I'm going to show you. I have a lot of starts right now. Let me see if I can. So see, I have lots and lots of containers. And almost all of my vegetables are growing in containers. Those are my starts. I might be getting out of my Wi-Fi, but see how I have a couple of raised beds over there, but almost everything is in containers. I have flowers there, but see these containers. So as far as what I have found out, for me, the easiest thing for me to grow in containers is to use a good potting soil in your containers. Make sure that you have enough water. make sure you water them enough because containers dry out really fast, especially in the summer. And the biggest thing for me, the biggest like light bulb was to use a slow release fertilizer in your pots. So I buy a slow release fertilizer. It's called, the brand that I use is Microlife. And I put the slow release fertilizer, it lasts 3 to 4 months in the pots. And I put it in there one time and it feeds the plants for the whole time. And you can grow almost anything that you can grow in the ground. Anything that I've talked about here, you can grow in pots. You can grow in containers.
That's awesome. In terms of watering, do you hand water or do you have a drip irrigation system set up in every container?
Okay, so I hand water, and the only reason I do is because I have a cat that chews on plastic. And so if I set up a drip system, she would decimate it. So until she meets her demise, I will continue to hand water. And then it's when she's gone, which she's really old and she's probably not going to live much longer, I'm going to put a drip system in on an automatic timer, and then it will be super easy.
Great, thank you. And your watering schedule is like morning, evening during the hotter months, or more often?
So some of my containers are, I have built these containers called wicking tubs. And so they have a reservoir in the bottom, and I water from a tube. I don't know if you saw the tubes going into my tubs. And so I only water those like once every 2 or 3 days in the summer. All the other ones that aren't set up to wick like that, I have to water every day. Usually I do it once a day in the morning.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I was wondering if you have any advice for fire ants in your garden, how to get rid of them safely.
Yeah, it's really hard. So for some reason or other in my home garden, I don't really have fire ants, but I also garden at a community garden, and we have a real big problem with fire ants. One of if an organic solution to that is spinosad or spinosad, depending on how you say it. It will kill fire ants. It's not as good as a commercial, really high toxic, ant killer, but it works better than nothing. And the other thing that I have done is I'll just take my hose and just drown them until they get mad and they move somewhere else. They move to somebody else's bed in the garden.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I got. Someone said boiling water too, but boiling water can be dangerous because if you're carrying boiling water out to your garden, you could burn yourself.
I actually tried the boiling water, but it also kills your plant, so that kind of defeats the point. But yes.
Yeah, right.
So did you see the question about soil testing?
I have not seen those since I've been talking.
Okay, the question is there a local place you can take a soil sample to have it evaluated for nutrients, or a new garden?
I don't know. Is there? Nancy, does it do it? Any of the other methods?
AgriLife.
Yeah, just take it to AgriLife. You just mail it
They
in.
they can call our help desk and ask for a soil sample bag, and then they'll send you a bag, and then there's instructions on how to send it and where to send it. I think the cost is, I want to say it's maybe $15. Teresa or Claire, you may confirm that. I'll put the phone number again, our help desk to call.
Okay, I'm going through the questions. And there were some questions. So during the presentation, so someone asked, my cantaloupe split before ripening, and strawberries only get to be a couple centimeters. What could be the problems? And so I think too much water on the cantaloupes, or it may not be too much water, but it could be it dries out and then it gets a lot of water and then it will split. It's kind of like tomatoes, because tomatoes do that. And then the question on the strawberries, it could be the variety or it could be a lack of nutrition. And then someone else asked, is delicata squash considered a winter squash that can handle the heat? And the answer is yes. And someone else asked, is it too late to plant peas? It's on the cusp. So about March 20th is when I stop planting peas, but give it a try. You never know. We never know. And we might have a cool, early summer and they might do fine. So someone else asked what zone we're in. We're in zone 8A. And let's see what else. Do we get reward points for this meeting? I don't know.
I wasn't sure what they were asking. If they were asking about if they're a master gardener or a city, I wasn't really clear.
Okay. So as a master gardener, oh, you were answering that. Okay. So mention a
If they're
website.
a master gardener, they do get a CEU credit. Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned a website to find the yield of vegetables. Could you please put the link here? So the link is included in the video at the end. It's the second from the last slide, and it's the third URL. And it's on page 10 and 11 of that website. And
Teresa, I'll do a follow-up. I think Heather was going to send out the link to view it again. I'll go ahead and pull the registration and send that, and then I'll send them that vegetable guide you had referenced as well.
Okay. And then someone else said they buy seeds from Baker Creek. I also do too. Someone else, I know that a lot of people like to buy from MI Gardener. There's lots of seed companies online, and most of the seed companies online that I've used, I have not had any problems with. But like I said, Johnny's is my favorite. Is there a free seed bank at any of the libraries in North Texas? I think you need to call your librarian and find out. I'm pretty sure that most of them do have them, not all of them. Is there a class on harvesting seeds? No, but we can do one. I can do one of those if there's enough desire for it.
Yes.
We'll be
okay.
filming you, Teresa.
Okay. So, hi, I bought garlic to plant last fall, but I didn't have a chance to plant them. Will they last until next planting time? Probably not. It's just better to probably just eat them. Or here's something you could try. You could try putting them in your freezer. I don't know. I haven't tried it. You could try putting them in your freezer, and basically what they'll do is they'll go into a state of suspension, and then try planting them in the fall and see what happens. But I have a feeling you're going to have to buy new stock. Somebody said Little Elm Library has a seed bank. Did I see lemons on one of the slides? Is that something we can grow here? So yes, you did see lemons, and yes, I did grow those here. About 4 or 5 years ago, my next door neighbor, she had a lemon tree and a lime tree, and she gave me some cuttings, and she didn't label them. And I planted the cuttings, and one of them rooted and grew into this beautiful lemon tree. But this year was the first year the lemons turned yellow, and so they were always green. I thought they were limes until, well, not this year, but last year. And so this is the tree, if you want to see it, right here. So that started out as a little like 3-inch cutting, and that's what it looks like now. And I got about 30 lemons off of it this last year. And like I said, this was the first year that it actually had lemons that turned yellow and ripened. But I leave it out all year until it starts getting to where it's going to freeze. And then I just keep it in the garage on warm, sunny days. I pull it out of the garage and leave it outside and then bring it back in. And it's doing great. You can see it's blooming right now and it smells beautiful. Okay, let's see what else we have.
Lynn is asking the best way to harden off seedlings.
Okay, the best way to harden up seedlings is to take about 5 days. The first day, you're going to take your seedlings out, put them outside in the shade. Try to make it not be on a really windy day, a nice calm day. Take them out, leave them out for about an hour, bring them back in. The next day, same thing. Keep them in the shade for a couple hours. The next day, put them in the sun for about 3 hours. So you're going to do this for about 5 days, and you're going to have them in the sun for about 3 days, in the shade for the first couple of days. But for every day, you're going to add an extra hour. And then by the time 5 or 6 days is up, they're going to be ready to go in the garden.
Teresa, Rosa is asking if it's possible to plant avocados and have fruit yield in North Texas.
I don't know. My stepson is growing them, and he is in his 2nd year, and so far he hasn't gotten any fruit. So I don't know.
I don't know this person's name on an iPhone. She says, or he, their backyard is south facing with no shade. Can I plant in my backyard? It's their only real option.
South facing with no shade? Is that what you said?
That's what it reads. iPhone, if you're on, if you want to unmute and ask, be specific.
Yes, that is me. My backyard is south facing, and I have no trees, no anything out there. It's just yard.
Okay, and so what you're saying is it gets really hot back there.
It gets really hot back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would do is so what do you want to grow?
I'm not real sure yet. I'm very new to this, so I just started trying to start some bell pepper from seeds in my kitchen, and some green onion and some romaine lettuce heads, and I just have them all like in little jars and stuff about my kitchen, and I want to put them in a raised garden in my backyard.
Okay.
Because that's really the only place I have, but
Right.
it's, yeah.
So since it's going to get really hot in your backyard, then I think the best thing for you, especially as a beginner, and as a beginner, you want to be successful, because if you're not successful, you're going to quit, and we don't want you to quit. So, like right now, your lettuce can go out there. It will do great. When it starts getting warm, it's going to bolt, which means it's going to put out a flower head and go to seed. And when it does that, it gets a little bitter. But until then, you're going to get some nice lettuce, probably for a month or so, month and a half. And when it gets, you can plant tomatoes now. You can plant peppers now from, it's a little late for seed on the peppers. But you can plant the plants, tomato plants and pepper plants and eggplant plants. And if you plant them now, you'll get fruit before it gets really hot. Because when it gets really hot in the summer in your backyard, it's going to be super hot. And all those plants are not going to do that great. The pepper will survive. The eggplant will survive probably. The tomatoes will probably die.
Okay.
So just get them in as soon as you can right now. I don't think we're going to have any more freezes. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I don't think there are going to be any more freezes. I've
Yeah.
got my tomatoes and peppers in the ground already. Yeah, it's going to be hot there. Another thing you can do is you can buy shade cloth. You can go to the nursery and tell them you want some shade cloth, like say maybe 60% or 40%, somewhere 50, 40, 60, somewhere around there, shade cloth. And you can always put the shade cloth over your plants to protect them from the really hot sun in the summer.
That's great. And then I have one follow-up question.
Okay.
So my whole house around the whole perimeter really has not much shade on any side of the house. So if I were to plant, just generally speaking, what would be the best side of my house if no shade was available, regardless of what side?
I would, to plant vegetables, you mean? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would probably, if you have that much sun, I would probably plant on the east side. That way you would get sun in the morning and afternoon, and then shade sun in the morning and early afternoon, and then shade in the, later afternoon and evening. That way you'll get some reprieve from the heat. The plants will get some reprieve from the heat in the late afternoon.
Okay, that's good to know, because I might be able to do some planters on that side at minimum. I mean, it's my side yard, but maybe I could do something like that. So that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. Okay, where are
I'm
we,
sorry.
Nancy?
Teresa, yeah. Ronald wants to know, do bell peppers fall under the jalapeno growing season?
Yes.
And Rosa is letting everybody know that Lake Arlington Library has a seed bank. Or I probably missed some of these. Bedford Library has free seeds early in the spring. Let me see if I can go through here. Sorry, I was reading some of the backed ones on there. Yeah, someone did a follow-up about lemon trees. You already answered that one, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And someone said something about the pests not normally found in Texas. My experience with lemon trees is they are susceptible to scale. So you do lemon and lime trees, so you do have to check for those, but they're easy to take care of. So Almarie has a full shade backyard, but built a raised bed garden on the west side where it's partly shaded. Is that why her stuff isn't growing well? The only thing that is surging is rosemary, or surviving.
That's probably why. Yeah. So are you there still?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. So can you give me a little more information?
Yeah, so I have like 20 trees around my whole house, and I didn't think about it when I bought the house that I love gardening.
Yeah.
And only little bit of sun is in that one tiny corner of the backyard.
Uh-huh.
It's the side yard, and it's just west sun. And I feel like I tried for 3 seasons now to grow stuff from seed. I was asking about the seeds earlier, and transplants, and it's just like not working out for me.
Right. Yeah. So I have to tell you, I've taken out like 4 trees out of my backyard so I could grow vegetables. So, every time I tell people I've taken trees out of my yard, they're like, "Oh my God, you cut trees down?" And yeah, I cut trees down because for me, I needed food because I already have 40 some pecan trees in my yard. 4 trees out of those 40 some was not a big deal for me. So you might want to cut some trees down.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what exactly
or-
what I'm thinking. But it's like, I feel like I need to figure out, because there's trees all around with my neighbors and in
Right.
the canal that I have. So I need to be strategic about which trees do I cut, because I have a fully covered, like there's
Right.
trees all the way throughout. So I don't know if I should cut the center tree.
So what I would do if I were you, to me, the optimum would be to have trees on the west side, because that way you're going to get shade in the afternoon, because that's when it gets the hottest and your plants will love the afternoon shade. So, so any trees that are on the east side, you could cut down and plant on the east side, and then you'll have the sun that will come up in the morning and then go, over, and then in the late afternoon, you'll have shade from the trees on the west side.
Okay, now I have to convince my husband.
Yeah.
Well, and keep in mind what Teresa said during her presentation, that you need 6 to 8 hours of sunlight for those.
Right.
Yeah, I stood out there and I took pictures every single hour. I've done it like 3 times, and they do get about like 5 to 4 hours, and I was like, that seems pretty good, but they seem to just be stalling.
Are they deciduous trees or not? Do you know what deciduous is?
I have live oak. So, but the one on the west that gives it like that partial shade on top of that raised bed, it's a pecan tree. So that one right now, my garden has full sun when the sun gets over the house.
Right. So this is what I do, so for you, if you're not going to cut any trees down, then maybe what you can do is just have a fall, winter, and early spring garden when there's no leaves on the trees, because then you'll get sun.
Right. And, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And you'll just have to beg, borrow, and steal some fresh tomatoes out of somebody else's garden.
Unless all our trees are live oak.
Yeah. Well, the rest of my entire yard is all live oak, so it's just full of shade.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate
it. Good. Amanda wants to know if there's an inexpensive way to plant in the ground without doing a ton of soil or compost additions.
Amanda, are you there? Yes. Okay. So what kind of soil do you have?
Amanda, if you're still on, go ahead and unmute, please.
Crappy backyard. But do you have like heavy clay soil? Is that what you have? Yes. Okay. So, there's really not. If you have heavy clay soil, you're really going to have to dig it up. You're going to have to put some soil amendments in it, and you're going to have to do it every year, because that clay seems to always come back if you don't do it every year.
Raised beds could be the solution.
They could be, or grow in containers like I do.
Okay, Teresa, Pam wants to make sure we mention the law about purchasing, transferring citrus in Texas. I will share that citrus trees that I have, I purchased them from a greenhouse that's here in Texas. And I will say, when I have ordered some, I sent them to my brother and sister that live in other states. There are certain states they will not ship to. So you do have to be careful. Okay. Sarah says her tomato plants always grow tall and spindly, produces little or no tomatoes. She's tried planting in and around containers. Any advice?
Okay, that was Sarah. Is that right, Sarah?
Yes, Sarah.
Yeah. Sarah, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so are you fertilizing your tomatoes?
Probably not. Just whatever comes in the soil, but yeah, that probably is an issue.
Yeah, you probably that's a good example of where you probably need to get your soil tested and see what you need to put in the soil. The other issue is that a lot of times people plant their tomatoes too late and it gets too hot. And what happens is when the weather gets hot, the pollen in the tomato flower, it melds together. I don't know exactly the scientific thing, but it doesn't work anymore, and it doesn't pollinate the plant, so you don't get any fruit. So do you get flowers?
I've gotten a couple flowers. So I'm from Minnesota originally, and in Minnesota, my rose or my tomato plants were like bushes, huge.
Right.
Lots of tomatoes on them, and everything I get here is tall, pencil thin. I get a few flowers, but they seem to like just dry up and fall off.
Right. So when do you plant your tomatoes usually?
probably too late.
Yep. You need to put them
May.
in now. They need to go in now. The earlier, the better. And if, like a lot, I mean, I know people that planted them 3 weeks ago, even before the last freeze, and they cover them and they protect them.
Okay.
And, I don't really get them in that early because when the soil's that cold, they don't really grow, but they think, some people think they do, but they don't really. They kind of sit there until the soil warms up. But the soil's going to start warming up now for tomatoes and peppers, and you need to get them in now because once it starts getting hot, they're going to slow or stop production.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I would, instead of buying, so tomatoes are indeterminate or determinate, and indeterminate is where they continue to grow and grow and grow and grow, and they put a few tomatoes on, as they grow. So all throughout the season, supposedly, like where you're from in Minnesota, that's how they grow. They put tomatoes on all throughout the season. But here, they pretty much stop when it gets hot. So you might as well grow a determinate tomato that has good flavor, that will grow to a certain height. Usually they're between 3 and 5 feet tall. They're easy to stake. You don't have to pinch them out. You don't have to trim them. They just grow. They put on a whole bunch of fruit all at one time. When I say all at one time, like within a 2 to 3 week period, and you harvest them all. Now, if you're canning, you're growing them to preserve. That's a great, type to grow. And generally I grow determinate because they're easier. They usually mature sooner. Before it gets really hot here, we get a lot of tomatoes, and I get a lot of fresh ones during the time period that we can actually get tomatoes, and I get enough to can. And then in the fall, we can do it all over again. But during the summer, you're not going to get them. Not if you're growing the indeterminates.
Okay. That might have been my problem. So, all right. Well, I'm putting them in tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay.
Jan wants to know best place to buy plants.
Oh, I don't know because I don't buy plants. I grow all my own plants. Someone else will have to answer that. Does anyone else know?
I get mine at Russell Feed. I like to use plants, buy plants from Russell Feed Store. And Atwoods, I have bought some from there. I have bought some from Home Depot and Lowe's, but they're a little more expensive, but I've had good success with Russell Feed. Claire or Teresa, do you have suggestions?
Callaway's. I like to shop at Callaway's.
There you go. Anne says, how does corn do now?
So I'd say it's a little bit cool still right now to plant corn. I'd wait maybe till maybe the 1st of April. But if you get it in the ground and if you spray it, you're gonna have to spray it. You don't have to use harsh chemicals. You can use BT because basically it's the corn worm that gets in there. And just have a regular spraying schedule with BT on the corn, and you might get a good crop. I have never gotten a good crop here in Texas, but give it a shot.
We have grown those at the backyard vegetable garden at the Botanic Garden, and we would grow several rows of those, and they'd get up and be really pretty, and we would go in and get ready to harvest them, and they'd be gone because the raccoons and the squirrels and everything would have eaten them. But we have had success at the backyard vegetable garden. Dr. Rochelle wants to know, would you recommend a pop-up greenhouse to place your garden in?
To place your garden in. Are you still there?
Dr. Rochelle, are you on?
Yes.
Okay. Can you clarify the question for me, please?
Oh, okay. So I was thinking about putting a greenhouse up to keep the pesky animals that creep in my backyard away.
Yeah, like the raccoons and the
yes, and
possums and cats and all that.
All of that. And so I saw a greenhouse on Amazon that, looked like it would be something nice to put out.
Right.
The sun could come in and, so that's my question.
Okay. So, my daughter-in-law, my son and daughter-in-law, that they live in Wisconsin, and she has one of those pop-up greenhouses. It's a little bit fancier, a little bit more heavy duty than the ones that you would get on Amazon, but it's still, a plastic one that you just stick up there yourself. And she puts her tomatoes and peppers in there. But she still gets all the varmints. They can get in. So that's not going to protect from the varmints. This is what I use to protect from the varmints. The only thing, I've tried everything because we have raccoons, cats, and what are those? The ugly little animals. The
squirrels.
Yeah, we have squirrels too. Yes, squirrels. Oh man. And the little white ones that
Possums.
The possums, yes. So what I have found, the only thing that works, I've tried all the sonar things, I've tried everything, and the only thing that works for me is they have these sprinklers that you attach to your hose and you put it in the ground, you stick it in the ground, and it's motion activated, and it comes on whenever the motion is there, and it comes on, and it's one of those ones, and it's really loud. It scares them to death. I've put my game camera out there to see how it works, and it works great. It gets rid of them. That's the only thing that
keep in mind, possums will eat ticks.
Right.
So they're a good varmint.
But they dig up all your seedlings.
Well, that's
monsters.
Okay, so my Tilly and I apologize if I've mispronounced your name. Wanted to know if we offer a class on viticulture or resources who have tried and tested. We do not, but we're always looking for new topics, so we might in the near future. Laura wants to know the best way to keep crazy squirrels away.
Get a feral cat. That's the only thing I know.
From iPhone again, she wants to know, what should we put in clay soil yearly? And then Amanda replied, organic matter and compost.
Organic matter, compost, and the other thing that works really well, because I have clay soil too, and I've tried this, and that is the expanded shale. It really works well.
Okay, Rosa is asking, should we put tomatoes in the ground now? She has starters.
I put mine in. I know if you're on Facebook, there's a North Texas gardening, vegetable gardening Facebook group, and a lot of people are saying, no, it's too early, it's too early. But I don't know. I've looked at my weather app and I'm putting them in now. It's up to you. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing right now.
iPad 5, not sure who you are, says her soil is clay, or he. She's tried to grow tomatoes in pots with soil she buys with no success. How big of a pot do they need? What else is necessary to successfully grow tomatoes in pots? You're asking the right person, because she does a lot of container gardening.
Yes.
So iPad 5, are you there? You can unmute if you.
Okay. Well, that's okay, because somebody else might want to know. So mainly it goes back to putting in so the size pot needs to be at least a 5-gallon or larger, preferably a 10-gallon container or bigger. And normally what I do is I'll use grow bags, and I tried the first time I did grow bags, I tried 5-gallon bags and they were too small. Although I did set them up in 5-gallon bags one year at our community garden, and I set up a drip system there because my cat doesn't live there and doesn't chew on things over there. And so I had a drip system, and I had the slow release fertilizer in the soil, and they did really well in those small bags as long as they got water and food. But here at home, when I'm hand watering, I put them in 10-gallon bags or containers, whatever you want to call it, and make sure to put a slow release fertilizer
and they just need nutrients because it's, the thing is if you're using a regular fertilizer that isn't a slow release, you're going to have to remember to fertilize that once a week or, once every 2 weeks or whatever it is it says on the bag. And I never remembered. And so my plants, my tomatoes and my vegetables didn't do really well until I learned that a slow release fertilizer put in once at the beginning of the season does the trick.
I did notice that Atwoods, if any of you have an Atwoods near you, has grow bags, but where do you get your grow bags, Teresa?
I get my grow bags online at greenhousemegastore.com.
Let's see. Amanda wants to know if Romas are good.
So I have tried growing Roma tomatoes, that variety in particular, because there's a tomato variety called Roma, and then there are Roma type tomatoes. And I don't like the Roma tomato itself, but I love Roma type tomatoes. And one of my favorite is called Tachi, and I get those from Haas Tools, the seeds. And last year I grew a really fantastic yellow Roma type tomato that is called Sunrise Sauce. And I got that at Johnny's Selected Seeds. It was so good. That tomato, it's a sauce tomato. It's a Roma tomato, but it has the flavor that you could slice it up and put it on a sandwich and you would really love it. So I would go with, for me, I would, because a Roma tomato is an heirloom. And I would go with the Roma tomatoes that are the hybrids because they have more flavor. They're easier to grow. They're more disease resistant.
Mary said she puts her tomatoes in pots. They take about a gallon of water each day, and she uses fish emulsion.
There you go.
She has tomatoes almost year round, and she puts them in the garage in the winter.
Yeah.
So a couple of people have suggested locations to purchase plants: North Haven Gardens, Weston Gardens, Archie's or Mike's in Fort Worth, Russell Feed Store. They're asking about a way to view. I'm going to send you a follow-up of this recording. Somebody's talking about possums. One person is concerned about the pop-up greenhouses and our high winds. Very good point.
Yeah, you need to tie those down, definitely.
There was a video of one of the covers at one of the lakes, jumping up over, coming down on the boat. So yeah.
Oh.
Let's see. A well-fed possum won't eat ticks over pet food. Okay, good to know. Let's see. Recording is available. We'll put it back on. When you buy soil, do you buy in bulk and where?
Oh, okay. So I'm a member at Costco, and every year, this time of year, they bring in a whole bunch of potting soil, and they usually put it on sale for like $8.99 for a 55-gallon bag, and it's like a huge bag for so cheap. There's just there's no better price.
Okay. Let's see. How about growing peanuts? Season, soil, specifics?
I have never grown them. Actually, someone gave me some peanut seeds several years ago and I was going to do it, and I haven't done it.
And we did grow peanuts one year at the backyard vegetable garden at the Botanic Garden. I don't remember if we had a whole lot of success, but part of that experiment, because we also had a lot of visitors and kids, so part of that was about teaching people. So we really didn't have a production, but it was available, but it's a
okay. Option. So let me go back to that question about where do you buy soil in bulk? Because now that I'm reading it, I'm thinking in a truckload is I think what they're talking about. So there's a place in South Lake that at our community garden, we like to buy our soil from there, and I can't think of the name of it.
Alpine?
Alpine, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Kristen, did we already cover this? Kristen wants to know best place to buy compost. Is there a public pile?
I don't know.
I'm not sure about compost. Usually there's some, public pile for mulches, but I'm not sure
Right.
about compost. But there are some mega stores that you can either buy them in a bag or, Silver Creek or, places like that. You can buy, actually they'll sell you in bags or sell in milk too. Adi, and again, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Want to know, are there any vegetables that they could start from seed now, or are they too late to plant from seed?
No, you can still plant pumpkins. You can start from seed. Let's see. Okay, so Aide, are you there still?
Yes, I'm here. It's Ide, like the two
Okay.
pronouns.
Aide,
Sorry
okay.
to slaughter your name.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
So, are you talking about seeds outdoors or indoors or both?
Both, actually.
Okay, so right now you can start indoors. You can start like basil. You can start herbs. You can start melons, squash, cucumbers. All of those things grow really fast. They'll be, if you plant them indoors now, they'll be ready to go in the garden in 3 weeks. And that way, if we have any inclement weather between now and then, they're going to be safe. And if you don't have, do you have grow lights?
I don't.
Okay, if you don't have grow lights, what I do this time of year is I'll start them indoors, and and during the day I'll put them outside in the sun, and then but I'll keep them in covered in plastic so that it keeps the moisture in the starting trays. But then at night I'll bring them in so they stay warm, and then I'll put them out, and then when they sprout, you just keep them outside, and then you don't have to harden them off because they're already hardened off.
Okay, Lynn wants to know, are there any brands of the slow release fertilizer for the tomatoes that you would like to suggest?
So the brand that I like is called Micro Life, and I am in Arlington, and I get it at the Tree Place in Southeast Fort Worth. And I know there's several places around the Fort Worth area that it is sold. If you go to microlife.com, I think they have a finder there where you can find stores that sell it. They have 2 different vegetable garden mixes, and these are organic. So you can also get non-organic slow release fertilizers, and you can just go to Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff like that, and that would be something like Osmocote. But I like the MicroLife because it's organic, it's slow release, it works really well. And there's, like I said, there's 2 blends, and it doesn't really matter which blend you get. It's whichever one you like the best.
Okay. Delbert states that he has a lot of trees in his yard. What are the best vegetables to grow when you only have a few hours of sun?
Yeah, the best ones that you would want to grow with a few hours of sun would be your leafy vegetables. So your kale, collards, bok choy, the stuff that normally you grow in the fall, in the spring, early spring, when in the cool weather, that's what I would grow. But when it gets hot, even in the shade, they're not going to do well. They're going to turn bitter, but those are going to be the best things in the shade.
Okay. Delbert shared that they get their organic soil at Living Earth on Northwest Highway in Dallas. And there are some other locations out here on Highway 199. Me is Living Earth out here as well. He said there's $60 a pickup load, and they will sell for bags as well, a little bit more expensive. So Denton County has what they call dino dirt and dino soil. If you have a truck or rent a trailer, it's very cheap, excellent. It's raised beds filled with dino soil and sand plus compost. So thank you for sharing, Doug. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, I think we're almost to the end of the quick
I think we
Q&A.
are. I don't see any more questions.
All right. Does anyone else have any more questions? Okay. QuizQ will sell bulk soil as well. Thank you, Helen. So what we'll do is I can send you the link for just Teresa's presentation. It'll take me a little bit longer to convert this Zoom presentation, and that can be sent to you as well. You'll just have to be patient. It won't be as quick. Donna wants to know how to prevent rabbits from coming to the garden.
You're gonna have to fence it off with chicken wire.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Boy, you held their attention. There's still like 70 people logged on.
Good.
And you have over 100 people to listen to the whole presentation. So, Price is wanting a class on preserving the vegetables. So, you know, Teresa, we had that conversation about that because Teresa does a lot of canning.
So I do the canning classes, and now that we're doing in-person classes, then I guess, Nancy, you can put that together, right?
We will be doing that, yes. Those classes, when we do them in person, we usually host those on the weekend, like on a Saturday. And those are, we have an education building that is down near our demo garden, which is at the Resource Connection of Tarrant County. For those of you that are not familiar with that, that's in South Fort Worth, just north of 20, just west of Campus Drive. So if you're interested, if someone's asked if there's a mailing list to sign up for things, when I send this email to you, you can reply to that email. Let us know if you would like to be, and I'll ask the question, if you want to be added to our information list when we do other presentations, or when we do some live presentations, we can certainly send you that information. Someone asked if we can consider hosting on Sundays for those who can't do Saturdays. I'm okay with Sunday afternoon, but it'll be the presenter. Teresa, how do you feel about that?
Sundays are fine with me.
Okay, so we might consider that. So Rosa, thank you for asking that. Anyway, any other questions? These have been great questions. Y'all have been a great participant this evening, so thank you. All right, so I see this in the email, in the chat. You're saying I want to be added to the list. I'm going to let you know my mind will not remember all of those names. So when I send your email, if you'll just reply to the question, because I'll ask that question after. If you want to be part of the list, just reply back to that email. Or if you have any other questions, just reply back to that as well, and we'll get back to you. So don't expect it immediately, but I'll send it to you as soon as possible. Okay. Teresa, you've been a great presenter. Mary Lou and Teresa and Claire, thank you so much for helping this evening. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Any other? So you're just getting all sorts of accolades here, Teresa. You're wonderful. Thank you for your information. Teresa is definitely one of our go-to girls for vegetables. She's very, very knowledgeable on edible landscaping and container gardening. And as she mentioned in the bio, she works a lot with the Tarrant Area Food Bank. She does presentations with canning classes and is extremely knowledgeable in a very safe way as far as canning as well. So she does a great job. So Sandy, we're glad that you're here in North Texas. Mosaic Community Garden in Chula Vista, California. Oh my gosh.
Hey, who is that? Because I am from Hemet, California. So you know where that is, right?
Hey.
Yes, ma'am, I do, Teresa. Thank you. We're on board here.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Hey, we're very happy to do that. You guys have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So does anyone have any other questions? Or I know you want to just keep showering Teresa with, we have one from Fontana, California.
Montana.
Oh my gosh. Are you logged in from there or you've moved to Texas? Candy. We don't know. Okay, well, we're glad you're here. If you've come to Texas, you got here at last. So we're glad that you're here. And if you're not, we're glad that you like us anyway. Oh, she moved here. Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome. Yeah, it's going to be gardening a little different than in California. And then another transplant from California, Nipomo. I'm not sure if I know how to pronounce that correctly.
Yeah, I don't know where that is.
I'm not from there. So we're glad that you're here. All right. Thank you all. Yeah, if you have questions, Tarrant County AgriLife, Tarrant County Master Gardeners, we are the volunteer arm of Texas AgriLife. That's through Texas A&M. And if you're interested in becoming a Master Gardener, let us know. We would certainly encourage you to be a part of that. our intern group, Teresa Landfield, who's on as one of our tech support. She's one of the mentors with that, and she can certainly help you get with that. But our class has already started, but we'll be starting some Mod Squad, which are modular classes for people that currently work or are considering retiring. But we would love to have you join us. We volunteer. You know, Teresa's not paid to do this. She just loves to share her knowledge, and we appreciate her. All right. Thank y'all. We're going to sign off so I can convert this recording, and we'll get an email out to everybody. So anything else, Teresa?
I don't think so. Happy gardening. It's crunch time right now. Get out there and do it.